I've spoken before in other videos about how I tend to have a bit of an obsessive mind. There's usually one to two things that usually occupy most of my free time, most of my thoughts, and it's something where if I'm not working on that item or not doing that thing, I'm usually thinking about it outside of that. And it, it's days like today when things are going well, and even now when I'm not at the keyboard, I'm thinking about my novel, and it reminds me that I am absolutely absorbed in the story. It's very much like an addiction in a sense. It's something where I'm basically completely focused on it, and there's not really much else that occupies that space. Fortunately, it's definitely obviously a healthy addiction. It's not something where I've completely shut off other people in my life. I have spoken before about how I do tend to sometimes skip events or sort of avoid some social functions if I'm in the middle of a project. If I'm getting somewhere with the story, I need to do that. Then yeah, I tend to choose that. And for me, the thing that I tend to find interesting is that it's often not always a chore. It's not often a chore to skip an event or to sort of push things aside in favor of my writing. I've talked before about how I quit a job over that for a sabbatical. It's definitely something where this project, especially right now, this project, it's just really on my mind 24/7. And I don't know if it's a good thing. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best attitude to have. I haven't noticed any like real detrimental sides to it. It hasn't gotten to any kind of extremes. Not something where you see in these movies where like these savants they'll take like an activity and they'll just push it all the way until they basically self destruct. I don't see it getting to that point. But it's definitely something where, and if I'm not at the keyboard, I'm thinking about it. And again, there are very few things in my life that really consume me in that way. Yeah, most things I compartmentalize pretty well. I don't think about my day job. I never think about outside of work hours. I don't think about, movies or other events or things, any kind of media that I watch. I don't ever think about it after. It's basically my projects, and that's what I'm focusing on. It's at the point even where I can't necessarily focus on other things either. I'll get to the point where I'll be watching TV or watching a movie or something like that, and I'm like half absorbed in it and half not even paying attention. Just because I'm thinking about constantly, okay, what am I going to do next? Or how much closer am I? And I'm just constantly pushing that. And if there's any kind of negative side to it, I think that's probably the one negative. It's the idea that that I'm not really enjoying the moment as it is. I'm looking towards this other thing, which can be very, very toxic, and it definitely can be something where if you are someone that's always living kind of this future mentality, you're going to miss a lot of the sort of subtle, I won't say joy, but sort of the subtle purpose of life in a sense, in that all there really is the actual moment that you're in. And so if you're not enjoying that, and if you're thinking ahead, always thinking ahead, always thinking of this other thing, it's going to get to a point where you're going to reflect back on it. And I've gone through this myself, where you kind of look back and you go, wow, I didn't really enjoy like that those past 3 months, those past 6 months. Time's gone by, but I didn't really get out and I didn't really do the things that I wanted to. I didn't necessarily go, I didn't go out, to see people as much. I didn't go out, I didn't take a beach day and enjoy the sun and the nice weather that in the short, season that you have, if you're living in New England. I didn't really enjoy that television show or that movie that I paid, $10 a ticket to see or something like that. I didn't really enjoy it because I wasn't really absorbed and focused, in the moment of watching it. And that's really the detrimental side of it. And that's something that I'm always trying to fight in a sense. I'm always trying to fight that sort of that urge to always be thinking ahead. But that's kind of the thing, isn't it? You're gonna have regrets. If you're going to do anything at a high level, if you're trying to be really good at something, yeah, you're gonna have regrets. But the thing about regrets are they gotta be earned. You have to actually, get in there and earn those regrets. You don't, the person that just wakes up every day and just goes about their day in this sort of autopilot, yeah, they haven't earned a regret. There's not something they can look back on and say, oh man, I wish I did this thing because I was really pushing myself at this other thing. You haven't earned that, right? Like they're not going to experience that type of regret. And so for me, that's the big thing to always keep in mind as well, is the idea that if you do look back and you do wonder, all right, I spent all this time working on this project, but I missed this other thing. Well, yeah, that's part of the sacrifice, but also count yourself, I won't say lucky, but count yourself as someone who is fortunate enough to have experienced regret, because most people that experience it, they don't experience the type of regret that you have, and they haven't earned it. They haven't earned the quality of that. So I hope that makes sense in a way. I wasn't really wasn't really planning on getting too philosophical with this. I was just kind of musing on the fact that I'm so completely dialed in on this story now. My mind is completely on it. But I guess I'm gonna leave it here for now. But yeah, right now I am just cruising along, and again, by the end of the month I should have hit my end of my third draft, I'm hoping. So fingers crossed for that, and yeah, we're gonna see what happens.